10 most provocative quotes in the Bible. The Bible, a cornerstone of religious and moral guidelines for billions, is also a source of some of the most provocative and debated quotes in history. But why do these controversial verses stir such intense discussions, and what can they teach us today? In this video from Bible Short Stories, we'll delve into 10 of the Bible's most controversial quotes, exploring their historical context, modern interpretations, and the profound questions they raise about faith, morality, and human nature. Prepare to be challenged and enlightened as we uncover the deeper meanings behind these thought-provoking passages. Quote 1. The Test of Faith, Genesis 22:2. Then God said, "Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain, and I will show you." This verse is a profound test of faith and obedience, presenting a moral dilemma that has perplexed scholars for centuries. It raises questions about the nature of God and the extent of human obedience. In modern times, this passage challenges us to consider the limits of faith and devotion. How far are we willing to go following our beliefs, and where do we draw the line? This story ultimately reveals a God who provides faith that endures even in the most severe trials. Quote 2. Vivid metaphors, Ezekiel 23:20. There she lusted after her lovers, whose genitals were like those of donkeys, and whose emission was like that of horses. This explicit imagery, part of a metaphorical narrative, describes Israel's unfaithfulness. It's a controversial verse due to its graphic nature, but it serves a purpose in illustrating the depth of betrayal and the consequences of turning away from God. Today, it reminds us of the importance of loyalty and the dangers of temptation. It's a stark warning about the consequences of straying from one's values and commitments. Quote 3. Exclusion and belonging, Deuteronomy 23:1. No one who's been emasculated by crushing or cutting may enter the assembly of the Lord. This verse reflects ancient cultural and religious practices, raising questions about inclusion, purity, and community standards. In modern society, it challenges us to consider how we define community and who we include or exclude. It prompts a deeper reflection of our contemporary values of inclusivity and acceptance, contrasting them with historical perspectives. Quote 4. Moral integrity, Revelation 2:20. Nevertheless, I have this against you. You tolerate that woman Jezebel, who calls herself a prophet. By her teaching, she misleads my servants into sexual immorality and the eating of food sacrificed to idols. This verse speaks of the challenge of maintaining moral integrity in a corrupt world. It addresses the issue of false teachings and the importance of discernment. In today's context, it serves as a reminder to stay true to one's values and beliefs, even when faced with societal pressures and temptations. Quote 5. Inner purity, Matthew 5:28. But I tell you that anyone who looks at a woman lustfully has already committed adultery with her in his heart. This verse highlights the internal nature of sin, emphasizing that actions begin in the heart and mind. It challenges us to consider the purity of our thoughts and intentions, just not our actions. In a world where external appearances are often valued over internal truth, this verse calls up to a higher standard of personal integrity and self-awareness. Quote 6. Cultural context, Leviticus 18:22. You shall not lie with a male as with a woman. It's an abomination. This verse is at the center of modern debates on homosexuality and the Bible. It raises questions about the applicability of ancient laws to contemporary life. Some view it as a timeless moral command, while others see it as culturally specific. This verse challenges us to consider how we interpret ancient text in light of modern understandings of sexuality and human rights. If you're enjoying this discussion, please hit that like button. Quote 7. Gender roles, 1 Timothy 2:12. I do not permit a woman to teach or to assume authority over a man. She must be quiet. This controversial verse has implications for gender equality and the role of women in religious teachings. It's been interpreted in various ways, reflecting changing societal norms about gender roles. Today, it prompts discussions about equality, respect, and the evolving understanding of leadership and teaching roles in both religious and secular contexts. Quote 8. The divisive nature of faith, Matthew 10:34-36. Do not think that I have come to bring peace on earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. This verse highlights the divisive nature of Jesus' message and the personal cost of following him. It challenges us to consider the price of our beliefs and the impact they have on our relationships. In a world that often values harmony and conformity, this verse reminds us truth and conviction can sometimes lead to conflict and division. Quote 9, Slavery and Human Rights, Exodus 21:20-21. When a slave owner strikes a man or female slave with a rod and the slave dies immediately, the owner shall be punished. But if the slave survives a day or two, there is no punishment, for the slave is the owner's property. This verse reflects the historical context of slavery in ancient times, but is deeply troubling in the light of modern views on human rights and dignity. It challenges us to confront the darker aspects of our history and the evolution of moral and ethical standards over time. It also raises questions about the interpretation of Scripture in a modern context where values and norms have shifted dramatically. Quote 10, Anguish and Vengeance, Psalm 137:9. Happy is the one who seizes your infants and dashes them against the rocks. This verse, full of violent imagery, expresses the deep anguish and desire for revenge of the Israelites in exile. It's a raw expression of pain and anger, reflecting the human response to suffering and injustice. In today's context, it challenges us to understand and empathize with those who experience deep trauma and loss, while also grappling with the complexities of justice, revenge, and forgiveness. The provocative quotes in the Bible are not just historical artifacts. They are living words that continue to challenge, inspire, and provoke deep thought and discussion. They remind us that the Bible is a complex and multifaceted text reflecting the breadth of human experience and the depth of divine revelation. As we engage with these verses, we are invited to explore the tensions between ancient and modern values, between faith and reason, and between the divine and the human. What are your thoughts? Let's discuss what quotes you think are the most controversial. Bible Short Stories, signing off.